Hello, my name is Sean Keenan and I run mzpstudios.com, and in this tutorial for CG Touch Plus I'm going to show you how to bake out normal maps in XNormal after you have sculpted your mesh or your character inside of ZBrush or Mudbox, and done the retopology inside of any 3D application. So let's go ahead and get started, and we're basically going to bake out the normal map, not for the entire character here. I'm just simply going to bake out the normal map for the hockey pants here. And this is a character that I was asked to do for a friend, and I had to do, I think it was something like 10 or 15 different colored versions of it, and that actually was a little bit more difficult in terms of time to create all the textures. But I'm getting a little off track here, and this is just to basically show you how to bake out the normal map for the pants here. And as you can see, the wireframe for the pants is fairly low, and it's not overly complex here. Yes, for the shirt it may be a little bit high in terms of polygon count, but that's okay because it's still animatable, and I want to be able to retain all of that detail inside of the shirt, and the client was fairly happy with it. So let's go ahead and show you how to bake out our normal maps for our pants here. Obviously I had to sculpt this inside of ZBrush. I'm going to show you the Z tool here. As you can see, I did sculpt our pants, and you can see that we have some detail on the side here, the back butt area type padding, obviously the crotch area. But once I sculpted this, I took it outside of ZBrush and did the retopology inside of Maya, but I also did the UVs inside of Maya, so that I have a very clean UV map, as you can see here. And I basically separated this part here from the rest of the mesh, and that's because this is going to get a different texture than the rest of the pants. But the key here is you want a really clean UV map. You don't see any UV like overlays here, or like anything impinging on something else. It's all fairly clean, and you can see. Let me just turn the texture off here so that you can see. And the normals are all placed properly. And this is because when we take this inside of XNormal, we need this to be a very, very clean UV, and so that it's going to bake out properly. If you don't, then you're going to get like artifacting, or you're going to get some weird like anti-aliasing issues. And you can see where, like on the sides here, which would indicate, let's go back to ZBrush and I'll show you the sculpt, which would indicate, let me just turn I'll turn the jersey off here and turn the gloves off so that we can see the sides. It would be this, and I retopologized over it back in Maya like that, so that whenever I go to bake out the normals, it's going to bake out properly, and it's not going to be sort of like weird. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to show you how to bake out a normal map here, and that was just basically to give you an introduction. So what we first need to do is you need to export the extremely high res version from ZBrush onto your desktop, and it has to be undecimated. If you decimate the model and export it, you just will not get a very clean bake. It'll be very like anti-aliased and very artifacted, so that when you apply the normal map of it'll just eventually get weird. So let's go ahead and let's export our model to the desktop here, and we'll just call this pants high. This is just going to take a little bit of time to export, and there it goes, it's exported. So I'll just minimize that, and we'll minimize the UV window here, and I'll go ahead and export this, and I'll call this pants low, and it has to be OBJ. Okay, so we'll export that. We'll open XNormal here, and then I'm not just gonna bake a normal map. I'm gonna show you how to bake an ambient occlusion map as well. As you can see here, we have a fairly nice character image for our desktop. And we'll just go ahead and select our high definition meshes. I'm just clearing these are from an old project that I had in here. So we'll just right click, add meshes, okay, and then we need to add the pants high object, and that's where it says high definition meshes. Typically I won't touch any of these settings except for the smooth normals option, and we want to average the normals. This way it's a very smooth face whenever it bakes the normal map. For the low definition meshes, we'll just basically do the same thing here. Select add meshes, hit pants low, and usually I don't adjust the maximum frontal ray distance or the maximum rear ray distance. Usually if you retopologize correctly, you shouldn't really have much of an issue there, unless, like, say the arms of the torso are down in his side, then you may get some casting from the arms onto the torso or the chest or the stomach of the character. And so we'll just go for the smooth normals. We'll average the normals here as well. The baking options, we'll just basically set the output file to the desktop here, and we'll just say hockey guy pants. And as you see, I'm just going to export it as a BMP. You can export basically as any image file, whether it be, JPEG, PNG, HDR, your Targa format, or your TIFF exporter, DDS as well. But some of these, like the DDS, you have to have a specific plugin for Photoshop for it to work, which is it's the NVIDIA DDS plugin for Photoshop. And so we'll just go ahead and export our BMP exporter here. So we just go hockey pants normal, okay, and hit save here. Now you can basically select any option that you want here. In the earlier quick tip, I showed you how to bake your base texture, which is where you would simply just right click here in your high definition meshes and click base texture to bake, and this will basically just convert your poly painted information to your low res game res or cinematic res or animation quality resolution UV map for your character or whatever that you've painted inside of ZBrush. So back to the baking options here, and we'll just bake out a normal map. If I bake out an ambient occlusion map here at 4096, this is probably going to take a little while. So I'll just go ahead and pause the video here, and I'll select the ambient occlusion map and I'll bake it out, and then I'll come back and show you what those maps look like. So I'll bake out the normal map and the ambient occlusion map, and then I'll come back. Okay, and here we are now that we're back. You can see that XNormal has baked out a very good ambient occlusion map along with a very good normal map here. And when we apply this to the character for the overall end result, let me go ahead and move this, and I'll just show you the render here. No, that's not the render. You will get something like this. This is all of the detail that we have inside of ZBrush rendered out on a very low topology model inside of Maya. It should also be noted that ZBrush does bake a normal map really well. The only reason I use XNormal is because I'm so used to using XNormal. There are some models that I will use ZBrush to bake normals inside of, but for most of my models I tend to just use XNormal because I'm just so used to it. ZBrush does, like I said, bake a very good map, but so does XNormal, so it's basically just user choice in terms of which package you want to bake your normal map in, or bake your ambient occlusion maps and make your specular maps. You can basically just take this map and your normal map inside that you've baked inside of XNormal into Photoshop to go ahead and basically make your specular maps or any other maps that you need for your character. I think that's it for the tutorial, so I hope you enjoyed it, and keep an eye on CG Touch Plus, and you'll see some more tutorials come up in the future. Thanks a lot for watching.